Michael, why do people use podcasts? Mm-hmm. 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 Amen. Oof, so many things to dig into here. Love that. So, just to follow up on one of your main points here, Michael, which I love, and that's actually a quote from an interview I just made like a couple of days ago. It was, "Hey, it's funny how when you don't push, how much people end up pulling you in when you do things right." So I love that thing of like give until they ask, and if you do things right, you might find out that people ask a lot. So multiple things here. You build authority, you need a niche though, networking tool, talk to your ICP. I want to dig into all this. So, why a podcast to build authority? And let's focus on the B2B service niche. Like, I could write a blog post, and that could be considered as authority as well, right? Why the podcast, and what specific aspects of the podcast make that it? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 I love this. So you mentioned though that it was important to have a niche for that, right? You need to select a niche instead of saying, "Hey, I'm a marketing guru. I am doing marketing for B2B companies who provide services to other professionals." That's niche. Why is that? Why is that important? Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. And you could be saying, I'm talking about marketing for roofers in Minnesota. And here you're even more niche. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. So that's an interesting one, actually. Is there such a thing as too much of a niche or too niched down, in your opinion? Okay. Okay. I have absolutely no clue, but I'm gonna get like take a wild guess. 22,000. Okay. That's niche. Jeez. 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 It's a smart niche. There is money in there. That's a smart one. Okay. Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. This is so funny. I'm thinking of a niche right now that we need to get into. Um, Other thing you mentioned was so I got exclusive information on this podcast. I got a hair transplant. I'm like, in France, it's a very regulated market, and you cannot advertise a hair transplant clinic in France. And I'm like, I can't think of a clinic that did a good marketing job. Like, you have to really go and find and do your research. Like, if you would be releasing organic content in the form of podcasts, for instance, there are not many hair clinics that work well in France, but like, there is tons of money because it's a huge problem for some people. And well, it was for me. And I'm like, I'm inspired by this Montessori story. Anyways, that was my thought at the moment, Michael. Live from my brain. So the other thing that you mentioned is networking tool. Can you explain that a bit? Why networking tool with a podcast? Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's the pitch. I'm gonna go for the latter. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, so. Mhm. That's good. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And what I love about this, Michael, is that not once have you mentioned yet the fact that, hey, you're going to tap into my audience. It's very rightfully so, all about them. And like in lots of cases, that's enough. Then, depending of course, and we're going to get into it, the ICP of like what the podcast is representing, whatsoever. But still, like, as long as you make it all about them and you make them look good, and as an expert, it needs to make sense, right? With your niche and your podcast, obviously, like that's already such an entry door. It's like now who goes for a coffee, right? Versus who comes on podcast to be a thought leader, to showcase expertise, especially when you have something great to say. So I love this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Amen to that. So, sorry, I want to dig into this now. I was going to ask you about the style of podcast, but this is so good, Michael. So, there is what we call instant response marketing, right? You put an ad live towards a landing page, sales letter, or VSL, whatever you name it, and your intention is to, like, make as many sales as possible. If anything, ROAS is only going to get lower. The cost of acquisition through ad is only going to get higher because platforms want to make more money, more competitors come in. So why is it important technically to play the long game, Michael? Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. What do you mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's a marketing mix that you need at the end of the day, which is, I'm proud of this transition. So how right, you cannot start, otherwise you lose. So mhm. And I love this saying. A 10-year overnight success is my favorite saying of all time. Well, top three. Because people will notice you obviously only when you have success, but they don't see all the work, all the seed planting that it took to get there. So how do we do that? How do we insert, because that's what you specialize in, Michael. How do we insert, among many other things? How do you insert a podcast into a marketing mix? Because I think now we get a clear idea of, like, okay, this is why you should do a podcast, but how do you do it, especially if you in B2B space? Yeah, indeed. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. 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 Mhm. 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 Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. The latter. Mhm. That is not too bad. Yeah. Mhm. 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 Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Mhm. Mhm. Wait, I'm not the only one, Michael? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Compounds. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, so much gold here again. So one of the things I want to mention, Michael, which is so funny, is that yeah, authors to advertise their book, they go on Amazon Books, Indeed, Nobel Prizes, and so on. They also go a lot on podcasts lately. Closing the parenthesis. Um, how do you? So I understand that that's what you do for a living, but just so the audience has a better understanding, how do you typically advertise a podcast? Is it okay? We're gonna advertise the podcast on another podcast. Are we gonna advertise it on social media? Are we gonna advertise it on Google? Like, how do you typically make this happen to buy speed with your money? Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, okay, mm-hmm. Okay, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Mm-hmm. Nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So you touched upon AI here. One thing I'd like to ask you is automation. So how, when it comes to the marketing side of a podcast, right? Because so we're gonna assume that most of the audience here understands the long-term aspect of a podcast, right? And they are not looking for an overnight success, but they also have the budget to potentially accelerate that overnight success. Instead of a 10 years overnight success, make it a 2 years overnight success. How can you automate things around your podcast to make sure that things happen properly, including into your call to actions, including into, okay, my objective is to have an authority channel, but also, funnel part of my audience toward a lead magnet, a signed book, for instance, which is very personalized. I like that. Or something else. How do you automate the whole shebang? Right. Yeah. Okay. Mhm. Mm-hmm. 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 Take the hint. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's the thing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Page one. Man, exactly. It's the cover page. You need to read the cover page. Well, maybe they were too eager to, jump straight into page one that they didn't see it. It's Michael. That's maybe why. Mm, yeah, yeah, 100%. Like crazy. I have tons of follow ups, more than we have time for, but there are a few things I want to double down on. First of all, is I love the hey, you like this. I mean, you don't know this or you asked for this. You might like that on top of this. So like in my head and most of the systems we set up is like, hey, here is a freebie and then proof, objection handling, like this kind of marketing mix. But I like the hey, here is even more. Like that's gold. And depending obviously that is like sequencing based on their behavior. But that's really, really good. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, this is music to my yeah. This is music to my ears. Yeah, 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 yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 So something that I've learned very early in my marketing days is you want to create some form of urgency. That's the only piece I miss in your mix right now, Michael. So how do you, I mean, do you at all, right? Because maybe the play is actually the long-term game, which is if these are qualified clients, eventually they will face the problem that you're helping them solve. And if not, that's all right. They just get the value and they refer your clients. But do you at any point in time, in your marketing mix, in your automations, in your value chain, do you try or do create urgency at some point? Mm-hmm. 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 Interesting. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. You don't. Mm-hmm. 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 Michael Buzz, ladies and gentlemen. Michael, is there anything that we didn't cover here that you think is important that I forgot to ask you about? Anything you want to add? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Mm. Two things. The first thing is hence the importance of evergreen content. Back to your point of like you can send them back to previously released episodes. And here, sorry if I use your own words against you, Buzz, but I'm gonna push back a little bit. We preach consistency in the sense of you want to make it a habit for people to listen to you. Now, if the right pace for you is once every other week, that's fine. But then if you stick to that, you will get people to be like, oh shoot, it's my it's Tuesday 8 a.m. It's my buzz time, and they tune in your podcast. Now, it's your show. The content needs to be qualitative, quality before quantity, 100%. So if you run out of content, of content ID or whatsoever, our advice is like, hey, let's look at the last year of episodes. What are the top 10%? Let's select one that has been published more than 6 months and let's repurpose it. What do you think about that? Yeah. 100%. Yeah. What is happening? Yeah. Yeah. I love this. Yeah. Amen to that. Michael Buzinski, if I'm pronouncing the name properly. Buzinski? That's good enough. Michael, if people want to receive a copy of your book signed by yours truly, where should they go? Sounds fair enough. We'll put the link at the top of the description. Michael, thank you so much for coming on Podcast Gurus.